inquiry-based learning, higher order thinking. There was nothing that we have not done. There was nothing that India has not given to the world. So it is the time to go back, reflect, take the best practices, implement, and make our child the holistic learner which we always speak about. Now, this policy has laid down the guidelines so beautifully. And when you see the timeline by 2025, where you have to reach, by 2030, where you have to reach. So all the guidelines are so clearly laid down that we know our goal is there, a vision is clear. The only thing is each one of us have to now start working on the action plan. So it cannot be just talking about it. It is walk the talk. We have to do it now.
Absolutely. What you mentioned is the Gurukul system. I believe, yes, the way it has been, the pedagogy has been actually put forward, starting from the early child to the higher education. Everything has been chalked out very, carefully. I'm sure lots of educators have worked together on the draft NEP, as well as the people who are the NEP committee. They have worked hard to bring the best, so that India could be, second to none. So that is, a better vision on this. Well, this brings to a very important aspect that, we have been hearing a lot. 10 plus 2, now it will be 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4. So there is lots of ambiguity in the students, especially those who are in 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th, because they are the people who would be, we will say, the first, they will take the first mover advantage, or they will be the first, in the other words, they could be the guinea pig. So what, according to you, is the, views that whether the 10 plus 2 will be redundant, or the 5 plus 4 plus 3, how is it going to happen? Those,
So
especially the students who are in class 8, 9th, and 10th, that is, for them, is the crucial thing.
So the children who are right now in 8, 9, 10, I just want to tell them that, see, the policy has very well laid down the milestone. Now, when we talk about, say, 2025, 2025 is the year wherein the foundation literacy will be achieved by everyone. That is our numeracy, reading, and our arithmetic. Then when we come to, say, 2030, by 2030, we have to achieve 100% ECCE goals. That is the goal. And by 2035, we are looking for 100% enrollment right from pre-primary to grade 12. So the one who are right now in grade 10 and 11, understand one thing, that it is not happening tomorrow. It will take some time. Right now, everybody is deciphering it. And then the committees will make the action plan, which we have to follow. Now, when I come to this system, Sunanda, 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4, so we have to actually change our lens, that it is not about 10 plus 2 getting redundant. It is like 10 plus 2 getting a new phase, a new way of learning, a new opportunity to learn the boundaries of all the subject, like how these subjects are were in different silos. That is getting melted. Now the child will have the right and the choice to select whatever the child wants to study. And isn't that what each and every child always wanted to? So many subjects were there which the child was never interested in, but took it because that was a part of stream. But here, now we talk about this new pedagogical framework. 5 is the most beautiful time wherein your pre-primary to your grade 1 and 2 transition will be so smooth. Otherwise, the moment students used to come to grade 1 and 2, they always witnessed a very difficult world. All the subjects coming in, all the subject teachers coming in, the playway method is somewhere lost, and that happiness was not there. So beautifully, 5 is there wherein all the foundations will be strong. And when the foundation is strong, where numeracy, literacy, and mathematics can be taken care of, I think then we won't have any difficulty when we will implement other subjects, when the children will come to the next bracket of 3, that is preparatory stage. Preparatory stage will be the stage which will open a new universe of subjects for them, and they will start developing their liking, they will start collaborating with other children, the critical thinking part, the integration of ICT, everything will play a major role there. Then when we come to the eight, the other 3, that is our 6, 7, 8, which is beautiful, because that is where a child starts voicing his or her own concern, wherein the child gets the voice. And this new education policy has actually given the voice to the child. It is not just your curricular subject, your co-curricular, your health, your vocational, everything plays a major role when this segment comes. Then when we come to 10th, 11th, 9th, 11th, 12th, that is the 4, last 4. Here, you as a student have your choice. You want to study physics and history together, you have the choice. So the entire paradigm shift will be so strong and so student centric that a child will be able to pursue his or her passion, liking, and the entire approach will become liberal. Isn't this what we are looking for? I mean, we talk about all the Western nations wherein liberal education is there, and that is what our new education policy is giving to our learners. So all we have to do is we don't have to worry about what is there for us. There is something for each one of us, and everything is positive if we implement it properly. So doability is still a big question mark.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Negi, because the way you have very positively given an outlook of 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4 is, the way student can actually understand that this is going to be a more exciting and enthusiastic way, which would be very vibrant because now you are going to have a playway method and you will also not realize when you have completed your first and 12th class. So that is the biggest thing. Otherwise, from a play school to a normal school with a uniform and all these things, the students, yes, they feel really bad about it, where the fun activities were there and all of a sudden the school system is gone. Well, when you spoke about this curriculum and everything, it also says that the progress card would be a 360-degree approach. That is, a multi-dimensional card would be there, which would actually evaluate each learner's cognitive, affective, and psychomotor domains. So, how is your school going to implement it in case if you are, having a milestone to implement it? There is a timeline. So, what are your preparation as an educator, as an head of the institution? Who would be preparing your teachers, because that's one which is required, academic staff at there. And moreover, when we are saying the 360-degree progress means peer and self evaluation is one of the important part. So how are we going to measure it?
So here, when we talk about especially peer, self, parent evaluation, this 360-degree evaluation is again a positive way of evaluating a child so that we are not putting the child only in the bracket of subject-centric knowledge or the rote learning method, but we are trying to see overall how the child is performing with all the domains that we have mentioned. But the biggest challenge will be how do we train? Because here we need a change mindset, because definitely teachers will feel vulnerable because of the kind of entire change in the paradigm, how to evaluate, how to find out which domain the child is excelling. So I think the guidelines we will be getting from the this thing national assessment center, that is Parak will be providing the guidelines. Parak will be working with collaborating with all the different boards. And to all the viewers, Parak basically is the center which is the assessment center known as Performance Assessment Review and Analysis for Holistic Development. So the name itself says that we have to evaluate a child from entire 360-degree so that we are providing a holistic learner. So Nanda, it will be too early to say how we will implement, but yes, AI will also play a major role there. We'll have to take help of artificial intelligence also, and we will have to really put our teachers in the training mode wherein everybody will learn how to analyze the child from different domains, whether it's cognitive domain or it's affective domain. We will have to train our teachers to do that. We still have to reach that milestone.
So I am sure everyone else would be also sailing in the same boat. It's too early to share on that. But is there any preparation or is there any time that would be given, or there would be a trainings which would be taking place? How is it going to? Any clue on that?
So the training will be taken place. That is first thing, and counselors will also play a major role in making teachers understand how these different domains function. Definitely, as a school, if I'll give you our example, we will start with a pilot group. We will start with a pilot group to understand whether teachers are really understanding this or not. And we will definitely look forward to our education department also to provide us some kind of guideline wherein we know the route that we have taken is right and we are going in the right path. Here, collaboration with various schools will also play a major role, because whatever practices we are following, we need the validation of those practices. So we will have to collaborate with other school to see whether again we are on the right path or not. So it's like the basic preparatory method is started in all the schools. I think most of the schools, because most of the schools had discussions about new education policy, how they are going to change. But we definitely are looking forward to state and central education department also to provide us more clear guidelines. The action plan is basically needed.
Okay. Now, Dr. Seema, with your experience, as of now, there are many players who are there. EdTech players are there. There are career counselor. There are external career counselor like us who go to the schools and ensure that the teaching and everything is done. Plus, there are people who are doing, wherein they say we teach the students about the 21st century skills. Do you think this national education policy gives the room to all these people, or it is fully equipped that external counselor, external edtech companies might face a difficulty to peep in, though with the COVID, everyone who has developed their ERP in a better manner, they could churn a very good amount of thing because money in terms of their technology what they have provided. Yet we see smart classes there. We see Pearson, which is coming it with the evaluation. We also see that there are some people who are, companies who are edtech companies who are providing the ERP solution to the schools, or some e-learning solutions which are there. So, do you think there is any scope of that, or how is it going to happen?
No, I think there is a lot of scope. Why scope is not there? Because see, COVID has changed the entire scenario. We have embraced technology, and whatever we could do, we are doing. But then again, when something comes from a specialist, like for example, your organization, you are an outsider, but you have specialized in this particular genre. Maybe you will be the right person who can guide a school how to move ahead. So I do not see the organizations getting eliminated. I see more of collaboration wherein schools will collaborate with edtech organizations like Pearson, like we have collaborated with Pearson and Next Education, so that our children are getting the best. So the outcome is how we can give the best to our children, because we are talking about holistic development, and one size fits all approach is no longer there. Similarly, one school can do everything in next 6 months, not possible. So definitely we need more of collaboration. We need more of edtech organization also who are providing us the customized solution. Definitely now schools will not look for something which is available in the market. We will definitely look for more customized solutions for us.
Okay, and how about the teacher training? Would you be, do you think the schools would be, depending a lot on the board to come back on the teaching training methodology, or there would be external players who can play a major role in it?
See, for teaching, if we talk about teachers training, already the document mentions about that rigorous teachers training is needed. 50 hours of capacity building training is also there. Again, it will be an amalgamation of both. That is your in-house training, how equipped your counselors, your head teachers, your subject experts are there. If they are expert to deliver that training perfectly, the school can go ahead with. But if there are renowned outside players who have really done good, because see, when we talk about national curriculum, this new education policy becoming a success, we cannot just say that only teachers will play a major role, or bureaucrats will play, or politicians will play. Even NGOs who are doing wonderful, they will play a major role. Even the schools who are in the remotest area, who have actually implemented some bits of new education policy and they're already doing it, they will play a major role. So again, I see it more of a collaborative approach, but yes, subject matter experts will play a major role. Initially, they will play, then I think school will slowly and gradually, they'll become self-sufficient.
Wow, that's really good news because while we were speaking to many of the educationists, as you know, the episodes are going on. So this is a very common question, as edtech companies are also, this policy has come up with a manual, whereas the COVID-19 has not come up with a manual. So everyone was having in their own ways trying to progress on that. However, this gives a framework to the people that how to be managed. So collaborative way would be the way forward to the things. Now we move on to content kind of thing, wherein what content will be taught at the as the present syllabus is will be divided to the semester of various branches of each subject. Now, for example, if I am following an NCERT books and I'm in class 7, so I know what is there in geography, what is there in history, what is there in civics or environmental science, or how the science. Whereas now the subject would be in the liberty of the student, that what students they would like to pick up. That is for the people who are into the second, third bracket, right? However, when the fourth bracket comes, the bracket of four, here people will have their subject liberty. Now, what do you think that what kind of content would be taught at that time? Like, will that be the similar kind of content but divided into semester, or entirely a new content will come? This is a pertinent question because there are people, there are organizations like Byju's, Vedantu, there are Upgrade, those are the people who are actually grade up is there, textbook is there, topper is there. So Unacademy, all these people have created the content based on the NCRT knowledge, and they feel that they can do better than the school academician, where they can provide an assistance to the students at their doorstep by the use of the technology. So where do you see these people playing a role, and what kind of, first of all, content will come? Is it the same old wine in the new bottle, or how is it going to be?
No, if we read the entire document, we do not see the old wine in the new bottle, but we do see that subject competency will play a major role. Now, suppose we are talking about a few aspects. Suppose I talk about integers or I talk about trigonometry. Now, few concepts which are necessary for a child to understand and know. Definitely, we are not going to change the entire concept, but yes, how much to study, what is needed, that will play a major role, because there are so many concepts which become redundant after a particular point of time. So why do we put our children into the rote learning method? Why do we tell them to solve a particular problem for say 100 odd times? So what is needed, what is relevant, what is useful for the particular child's coming year? And here also one more thing plays major role is, suppose a child in grade 9 and 10 have selected the subject like physics, history, music. What is the career opportunity the child has, and what about the higher education? The higher education need to be in sync with what is happening in school, because if the school is offering a child the choice of various subjects, but the child is not able to seek admission in higher education, then that's the flip side. Similarly, if the child has studied, if the child wants to become say physicist, why the child has to study chemistry and bio also if the child is not interested? But then it should not happen that the child's future growth is limited, or the child is not suppose for example the child is not able to appear for NEET or NIT or for anything. So we have to be very particular about that. So I do not see that the basic concepts are changing drastically. The concepts which are relevant are going to stay, but rote learning is going to be eliminated completely. It will be more of critical thinking, application based, and something which is relevant. And that relevancy is needed, because if you will see from last so many years, our math textbook from our time to this time, you have seen the volume is increasing. What we have done, we have increased the volume. We have not eliminated what was not needed. So this policy will do that. It will eliminate what is not needed.
Dr. Negi, honestly, I simply believe that, that formula A plus B whole square, I still don't know where am I using it in my life. After 2 decades of my education completion, still, I don't know where am I going to use it. But yes, I have mugged it up so hard that now also I remember the formula of that. So maybe that could be the future of the people, where the content would be there. So what you're saying is content will be reduced, or content will be relevant. Whatever the relevant content would be there, it would not be the old subjects companies who are actually providing the online learning. I remember I worked with Educom, and our people who are working for the smart class content, they were doing the photosynthesis and everything in an animated manner. However, I'm sure the concepts would be changed and the new content has to be delivered on that aspect. Well, now we move on to the next question. When we spoke about the content, what are your views on the curriculum load? You said it would be reduced, but it would be the relevant thing would be there. This is what you're mentioning. Now, finally, there is something which is called as vocational training for the internships and everything. I would like you to throw some light on this, because this is something which is a gray area which has not been understood very properly, or maybe it has not been spoken well. So people still have the point to think. So if you can throw some light on the internship part, what are they? What does that mean? Where students can do internship, or what is it actually this line is saying? So if you can elaborate.
So, so Sunanda, there are two schools of thoughts for that. One is uh, who is welcoming the vocational program, 10 days of bagless vocational. There
Mhm.
is other school of thought which feel that suppose we expose children to vocational training at this early age, so maybe the number of dropouts will increase. So maybe if the child is dropping out after 10, the child might become some menial job, or the child might pick up the job of a carpenter or a potter or anything and will not pursue further. But then if we see it from the more holistic and more visionary point of view, a child who learns the vocational courses, say from grade 8, it can be carpentry, it can be gardening, it can be any of our like Atma Nirbhar Bharat, how we are promoting our art and culture. It can be anything out of that. So the child is not just learning about the academic subject, the child is learning the dignity of labor. The child is learning by doing. And these things are definitely going to make the child resume more strong. Now, there is also a mention of online vocational courses. So what if the child is learning online vocational courses? Definitely the child is leaving more focused digital footprints, and the child's resume, again online resume, is becoming very very strong. So how I see it something which is amalgamating of learning by doing. So you need to learn by do. And see how lovely it is when a child goes for internship. Child goes to any organization for internship, or you call any expert in your school to provide this vocational training to your children will develop skills. And I think from last so many years our prime minister is talking about developing skill, and this skill will become a new norm then. And you take the example of countries like Australia and Germany, wherein skill qualification framework is there. So we don't know, we might be leading toward that, but let a child learn everything that is required for life. Do not make education only mark centric, which it was till now. Now it is becoming more life centric. So if you ask me about this policy in one line, I say that right from mark centric education or mark centric approach, it is becoming life centric approach, and that is what is needed.
Very well said. So, one of the excerpts that I can take out from your talk is it's not Mark centric, it's life centric. And the kind of policy that has been laid, of course, that is very lofty policy wherein it talks about every aspect of thing. And that calls, as you have clearly said, yes, skills, Honorable Prime Minister has been saying. I was closely working with NSDC as we have hosted a couple of shows with them. And we wish to actually bring in the culture that, the skill development centers should be a part of the education domain, wherein all the kind of entire skill, SSC, the sectoral skills councils can be a part of it. Not only carpentry and everything, even beauty courses, even
Yes.
health courses, even the healthcare courses. They can come. They actually can say we are not limited only for the CPR. We can go beyond that where the students can learn. Absolutely, that's a very touchy point that you have said. Before we conclude, I would like to ask your views or your message that you want to convey to the students on NEP. How should they decode? What is the mantra to decode it? Though we are trying to bring the things, there are other players who are trying to bring such kind of shows which can help the people to decode. So maybe if you can share a bit about it.
So to all the parents, all the student and all the educator, what do we look for? We look for that when a child comes to us and when the child leaves after grade 10 or after grade 12, we look for holistic development. So for a child to be good in innovation, good in adaptability, and to become a positive and productive human being, to become a good citizen, few elements are needed. And what are those? Those are your language skills, your scientific temper, your evidence based thinking, creativity and critical thinking, innovativeness, aesthetics and arts, oral and written communication, health and nutrition, wellness, well being, mental well being, physical education, collaboration and teamwork, problem solving, logical reasoning, your vocational experience, vocational exposure, digital literacy, coding and computation, ethics and moral reasoning, constitutional values, gender sensitivity, citizenship education, environmental awareness, current awareness, AI, that is artificial learning and machine learning. also your data science. If everything is taught to you, or if everything you can experience from a beautiful journey of your early years till secondary years, definitely you are an asset to the society. And that is what the framework promises.
Very beautifully explained. So this is the second excerpt that we get is there are multiple things which are coming up, and every parent, like every educator has opened with open arm welcome the national education policy. Every parent should also be thinking about it, and this is for the betterment of the society, wherein we are making India stronger. Honorable Minister, Prime Minister has already said that Atmanirbhar Bharat. So I believe this is a step forward to take care of that. So this is how Dr. Negi, Dr. Seema Negi from Mumbai, she has explained the national education policy in such a beautiful way, which she said that it's not mark centric, it's life centric. That's the key word, that key takeaway that we can take from this session. Thank you so much, Dr. Negi, for being with us and helping us to decode the national education policy so that people can understand it in a much, much better and a easier manner, rather than thinking of it's again a Bible of 66 pages, which is hard to be decoded. In fact, I was listening to a few of the videos on the YouTube where people are saying decode the policy, decode the thing, and these are their personal views. What I feel is there have to be two aspects to it. One is an educator who can bring the right aspects, so like you, who are actually coming into our platform and share the things. Thank you so much. So viewers, this was Dr. Seema Negi from Sanjeevani World School, Mumbai, and she has shared such a beautiful thoughts. Her video and her excerpts will be shared shortly on all the social media. And we will be beginning another episode very shortly with Mrs. Preeti Pasricha, who is from GD Goenka School, and she will actually explain the things in a another perspective. So thank you so much, Dr.
Thank
Negi,
you
for
so
being
much.
with us.
Thank you.
Your
Thank you.
kind words and appreciations have already, reached to the people. I'm sure the viewers who are watching, like Aditya Visriya, is actually, commenting on that, understanding the time and work is the need. So we are getting good comments from people. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Pleasure.